In 1998, Dario Franchitti dominated the inaugural Grand Prix of Houston.
Fists in the air for Dario Franchitti as he accepts the checkered flag.
But it nearly wasn't so.
Dario Franchitti and Paul Tracy touched.
Teammate Paul Tracy's attempt at the lead almost wrecked both cars, and owner Barry Green was seeing red. In 1999, the streets of Houston were once again green, teammates finishing 1-2. This time, Tracy got the glory.
Tracy's going to take it. He takes the checkered flag.
But in retrospect, Tracy's gain was Franchitti's pain. Finishing second would ultimately cost Franchitti a title. Ahead on RPM today, come race end, Paul Tracy is one of 6 drivers who could walk out of Houston with the lead in the tightest points race in kart history. Martinsville has been unkind to Winston Cup points leader Bobby Labonte, potentially leaving the door open for the other drivers with championship aspirations, including Capital Lee, gunning for a history-making 8th title. The ultimate prize draws nearer on RPM today. Next.
Going green this time by, going green this time by. Bring them down.
Welcome, race fans, and thanks for dropping by on RPM today. I'm Whit Watson. Yes, we have your NASCAR preview. Matt Yoakum is standing by, but we start with kart. 3 races to go and the closest points race in series history. You'll be up to speed in half an hour. 45 points from 1st to 11th with 66 points still available. As we've said many times over the last couple of weeks, the kart championship race is wide open. Gilles de Ferran enters Houston with a 9-point lead on Roberto Moreno, 11 points up on Michael Andretti. Paul Tracy, Adrian Fernandez, and Kenny Breck rounding out the top 6. Castro Neves, Montoya, D'Amata, Vassar, and Franchitti all mathematically alive, and again, just 3 races to go. Here is the grid for the Texaco Haviland Grand Prix in Houston. De Ferran helping his cause by taking the pole, 4th pole of the year, 14th top 5 start in 18 attempts this season. Friday's provisional pole sitter, Dario Franchitti, also keeping hope alive. He's on the outside of row 1. Jimmy Vassar looking for a job next year on the next row. Current teammate Juan Montoya has a job next year in F1. He will start 6th. 7 through 12, Paul Tracy, Cristiano D'Amata in the thick of this championship chase. Not seen here. Breck will start 13th, Moreno 14th, Fernandez 16th in the 25-car field. Marlo Klein is standing by, calculator at the ready with more from Houston this morning. Marlo, it's anyone's ball game right now. The points leader, De Ferran, really in a place that he's never been in his brief career.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Whit. This is his 6th season in kart, but until 2 races ago, he had never led the points. Now his lead is 9, his largest ever this season. But let me put that into perspective for you. Only 20 points separate the top 6. Gilles did push his lead to 9 yesterday after he grabbed the point for the pole. And as you said, this is his 4th pole this season.
It's a double whammy for us here. I mean, obviously the point is, you know, any point counts in the championship, so that point is very welcome. But obviously starting up front in this type of racetrack is always helpful.
The top 6 in points have varying degrees of success and experience at Houston. Point leader Gilles de Ferran has a best finish of 17th, while Roberto Moreno and Kenny Breck have never raced on the street circuit. Paul Tracy is the only one of the 6 to post a victory, while Adrian Fernandez is the lone driver to score points in both events.
I hope to, have a smooth weekend, and hopefully we can get good, valuable points for the championship. It's very tight, so it's important to finish and finish in a good position.
I think a place like this is tough for everybody because you've got to focus all the time. It could work to our advantage, actually. So we're quite confident that we always play good strategy.
I think this weekend's going to be interesting. If we can come out of here with some good points, I think we have a good shot because the next 2 tracks we're pretty strong at. So I'll have a better feel, I think, after Sunday.
Team Cole Green has dominated Houston the first 2 years. Dario Franchitti won the inaugural race, and then last year, Paul Tracy led the 1-2 Green Parade. After grabbing the provisional pole in Friday's first-round qualifying session, Franchitti hit the tires. As a penalty, he was forced to sit out the crucial final 8 minutes of Saturday's session. He will start beside De Ferran on the front row.
The last 8 minutes are always the critical time, but penalties, the penalties there for a reason, and it's kind of disappointing, but there's nothing else we can do.
Tracy finds himself in unfamiliar territory in Houston. In the 2 previous events, he started no worse than 4th. Today, he begins his quest to repeat from 9th. Tracy and his team are seasoned veterans when faced with the challenge of starting from the rear. At Long Beach, Tracy qualified 17th and went on to win the race.
We're not that far back on the grid, 9th, so, you know, it's a little disappointed, but, you know, overall the car is pretty good, but just couldn't get the time from it.
Whit, there is a story going around here that Paul Tracy could still go drive for Forsyth next year. I asked Kim Green about that. He said that absolutely will not happen, that Paul Tracy will be with Team Green next year, pairing up with Dario Franchitti and Michael Andretti.
Now, on the topic, Marlo, a couple of weeks ago, you talked about Adrian Fernandez and his future next season. Do we have official word on that, an announcement coming up, and what's going on for the rest of silly season right now?
Well, Adrian Fernandez and Tom Anderson will make it official in Fontana that they will be starting a team next year. As far as Tom Anderson's role currently with Ganassi's team, all he's really doing is sitting in the pit box calling Jimmy Vasser's race. As far as Jimmy Vasser's future, I talked to Jimmy yesterday, and he said that Alex Zanardi told him if he came back to this series, he would like to team up with him again. A possible place where those guys could end up is with Walker Racing. When I talked to Derek Walker about that, he says that he is looking for the money, and he has talked to several sponsors about running those 2 guys next year. He says that if he does get the money, there's a strong chance that that can happen. If he doesn't get the money, there's no chance that will happen. Also, Jimmy Vasser will test a Chevy, a NASCAR, later this week on Friday at the urging of Andy Graves, who's running Chip Ganassi's NASCAR program. And also, as far as the rest of the news about Ganassi's team, there's a story out there that Mo Nunn and Tony Kanaan could be a package deal going to Ganassi. I asked Mo Nunn about that, and he said absolutely not. That will not happen.
All right, as for the event today, a true street course in Houston. Generally speaking, we don't see a lot of passing. What is the most important part of the setup for the cars today, Marlo?
Well, Houston circuit is the toughest on brakes. The drivers run the highest sustained temperatures here in Houston. As far as the brake systems go, some of the teams try to run different ventilation systems to keep the brakes cooler. But as the race goes on, the brakes get hotter and become less effective. The drivers know a big part of their job today is keeping those brakes under control.
Brakes are, you know, they start fading, and, you know, sometimes that's when mistakes happen. You think the pedal is right there and it's not there. And so you have to be very careful that you take care of your equipment at the same time, keep up with the leaders, and hopefully we'll be the leader.
My brakes has been quite good so far. Only in qualifying I had a bit of going a little too warm, but we're going to anticipate that and make sure that the thing is quite cold. So with a bit of luck, we won't run into any problems there.
Brakes are very important here, and traction also very important. So this is a racetrack that requires that the car brake really well and has a lot of traction out of the corners.
Whit, brake temperatures can reach a high of 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit today.
All right, well, I hope the weather's a little bit better in Houston for you. Marlo, thanks very much, and we'll talk to you again.
Thanks, Whit.
We have more of the grid, 13 through 18 for Houston. We mentioned Brecken Moreno, the rookie Serbia, starting behind them. Max Pappas and Shinji Nakano making up row number 9. Don't want to leave out Patrick Carpentier, also alive in the championship chase in 12th, but just 47 points out of first. We mentioned Mimo Gidley because he's got a really cool hat. Karts Texaco Haviland Grand Prix of Houston on our family of networks today. ABC has the coverage as the series hits the streets of Clutch City. 3 races to go. It's anybody's ball game. Find out how the points add up later today. Still to come, we'll check in with Matt Yoakum for the Winston Cup news. The Tour hits Martinsville, and so does RPM. The Dragsters at the Advance Auto Parts Nationals in Kansas. Stay tuned.
Daytona, USA, the official attraction of NASCAR.
Tony Stewart broke his own Martinsville track record in taking the pole for the Napa Auto Care 500. Last week's race winner in front of Martinsville master Rusty Wallace, who once won 4 races in a row on this track. The Burton brothers looking for a good showing just 60 miles away from their Virginia home. 7 through 12 on the grid. Brett Bodine making his 400th career Winston Cup start today. Dale Earnhardt, a 6-time winner here, second among active drivers behind Darrell Waltrip. The points leader just out of range. Bobby Labonte starting 14th on a track where he has never won. For the Martinsville story, we bring in Matt Yoakum. And Matt, it's that time of year. We got to bring out the calculators, take off the shoes and socks, and try to figure out what's going on in the point standings right now. A big shakeup last week, looking possibly towards another shakeup this week.
Well, we are at a short track, and anything is possible here on this tight half-mile paperclip-shaped racetrack. Historically, Martinsville has never closed out a Winston Cup season, but it has played a major role in deciding past championship battles, and it could again today. Point leader Bobby Labonte has never scored a top-5 finish here in Martinsville. He would like to just quickly pass on through town and head on to Charlotte, where he's had better luck. But Dale Earnhardt, second in points, would like a repeat performance of last fall when he finished second to Jeff Gordon. The top 4 drivers in points still mathematically have a shot at the title, and they all know a major hit today here in Martinsville could drop the hammer in the title chase or paint a whole new picture heading to Charlotte.
I think that if we have all the fenders left on it, we'll finish in the top 5.
If luck keeps on going his way, it's going to be tough to catch him. If luck sort of turns around for us, maybe we got an opportunity. But we run awful good at the racetracks we're going to, so that's our focus, is just make every race count. And if everything goes right, we'll be fine.
You just have to go race, get your car as good as you possibly can, and try to make up as much ground as you possibly can.
We worked to get ourselves in a position where we thought we had a chance, and then chance got taken away. So it's hard to accept defeat when you're in the midst of the battle, but you have to be smart enough to know when you're real far behind, and that's where we are. And it is a bitter pill to take, but it is what it is.
When the leaves start to change color on the Blue Ridge Parkway, it signals 2 things. Fall is here, and it's time for another fun-filled day in Martinsville. One of my favorite racetracks. Some other drivers, though, would not agree, including Tony Stewart, one of 3 drivers seeking redemption in Martinsville. On Friday, he won his 2nd pole here, but he's never led a lap, while Rusty Wallace has led over 3,000 laps, including 300-plus back in the spring, but he missed picking up his 7th Martinsville win. Those guys, along with Jeff Gordon, are hoping to turn it around this afternoon.
Being good here for the race is a whole different deal. And we're just trying to gain a little bit, and each time we've come back, I feel like I've learned a little more. But this place is pretty tricky, and it's hard to get a hold of for the whole race. So we're just working real hard, trying to get the balance the best that we feel like it needs to be for the race, and go from there.
I'm always optimistic when I come to Martinsville. We always run good here, and always had a shot to win the race. And I don't know why it'd be any different this time.
I felt like we had a shot at the pole. We qualified 5th, got a good spot on pit road, and the team's just been really building great cars a lot lately. I just felt really good about them. Every time we were off the track, we seemed to be pretty good. But I would say that this car right here is probably the best one I've had in a while.
Oh, I tell you, I learned in this sport you got to be kind of humble, because just about the time you get jacked up and think you're real hot stuff out there, you get your doors blowed off. So I'm just doing the best job I can with what I got to work with. We'll see where the cards fall.
2 drivers return to the site of their last Winston Cup victories, looking to end winless droughts. Bobby Hamilton has had a frustrating season and hasn't won since the spring of '98, while Ricky Rudd has had a competitive first season with Robert Yates, but still chases that elusive victory. His last trip to victory lane came here in the fall of '98.
I feel like we've got as good a shot at winning as anybody, and of course there's no guarantees in this business, but Martinsville is just a track that I've had good success at. I feel like I know how to win here, and we've got a team that knows how to win here. So again, the only obstacles in the way is those other 42 guys that want to do the same thing I'm trying to do.
It comes down to all the scenarios. You got to have good pit stops, you got to have a good handling car, a driver that's easy on brakes, and keep the brake ducts in the front of it. Once you knock the nose in on it, you're cooked from there on out. So it's a real tough race because there's so many critical items involved. The last couple of races we've had some misfortunes, some crashes, things like that, but usually when we finish we always run pretty good.
A pair of drivers have their sights set on victory lane for similar but different reasons. Steve Park looks to maintain the momentum from his first career victory by scoring later today his 4th top 5 in the last 7 races. Mark Martin's season has been one of frustration. He's out of the title chase again and winless since Martinsville's spring event 19 races ago. He looks to refocus and finish the season strong by sweeping Martinsville in 2000.
We were real encouraged by race setup practice. We couldn't hit a lick on qualifying. We were just totally junk, but race setup seems okay. So far, my car looks as good or better than last time, and last time we had enough car to win once we got to the front.
these guys on this whole Pennzoil team are working real hard and trying to give me the cars we need to run up front, and I think that's really shown over the last few weeks. So Martinsville's been a place that we've struggled at in the past, and we've definitely stepped up our qualifying effort, and we'd also like to step up our finishing effort here in Martinsville.
While Park became the third first-time winner in 2000, several other drivers like Mike Skinner, Jerry Nadeau, and Johnny Benson hope to become the fourth, which would tie a record going back to 1988. They have strong cars here. They look good in happy hour. They're hoping to pull it off later this afternoon. Whit?
Matt, John Andretti's had some success on this track. I know you'll get to that in a minute. The 45 car driven by Kyle Petty in the field today, although the 44 car did not make the field for Petty Enterprises. Kind of a busy weekend for them, isn't it?
Well, Whit, the Pettys are trying to take advantage of Martinsville. Yes, it was one of Adam Petty's scheduled races, but now Kyle is going to be in his son's car for the rest of this year in a few races and the entire season next year. So he's trying to get that team to gel at a Winston Cup race. They have run some Busch races. But what they're also trying to do is get the team, the entire team, the 43, 44, and 45 cars, on the same page as far as chassis. They normally run a drop snout chassis here. The 43 won with that last year. But they've gone to standard snouts, trying to get their entire fleet on the same page so that way they can take advantage of all the notes that other teams like Hendricks and Roush and Gibbs have taken advantage of. But one thing to keep in mind, Kyle has run well here in the past, and they'd love to pick up a win and give that team a little jump start going into next year. But one thing to keep in mind also here in Martinsville is a very tight pit road. We saw it yesterday in the modified race, which, by the way, Reggie Ruggiero won in dramatic fashion, taking the modified championship to the season finale with an 8-point deficit between first and second. We've got a tight battle for points here, and you know what? It could end up coming down to something that takes place on pit road.
All right, Matt, thanks very much for the time, and we'll talk to you again.
Okay, Whit.
More of the grid for Martinsville. 13 through 24, we mentioned. Bobby Labonte was starting 14th, looking for his first win at Martinsville, though he did lead 120 laps at last year's race. Darrell Waltrip has won here 11 times. One of those a very special memory. We'll get to that in our last lap feature. Bill Elliott and Casey Atwood starting 2 spots away from each other. They are getting ready for their move to the new Dodge team next season. Mark Martin, Joe Nemechek round out the top 24 for the Napa Auto Care 500 at Martinsville, which you can see on television, Segway, today at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on the worldwide leader in sports. Spend your Sunday in Martinsville with us as the Winston Cup season heads for the homestretch. The Napa Auto Care 500, 1 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. On this program, as promised, dragsters in Topeka, great points battles all over the place. John Force and the Funny Cars will check in on the Advance Auto Parts Nationals, and the Outlaws kick dirt at Williams Grove. Williams Grove National Open, lap 27. Donnie Schatz goes by Fred Raymer to grab the lead. The restart on lap 39. Mark Kinzer and Keith Kaufman make contact as both cars head to the wall and go end over end. We head down to the final lap, and it's Donnie Schatz taking the checkers to victory lane. He goes for a big, fat trophy. Season points in the Outlaws as we speak. The King, Steve, leading the way in search of his 16th World of Outlaws title. Sammy Swindell ahead of Mark Kinzer for 2nd place, thanks to a 7th place finish Saturday, coupled with Kinzer's 24th place finish. Saturday's A feature winner, Donnie Schatz, is 11th in the standings. Top qualifiers for the NHRA's Advance Auto Parts Nationals in Topeka. John Force closing qualifying Saturday with the best funny car lap of the weekend. Good enough for his 9th #1 of the year, 98th career. Gary Selzy up there in Top Fuel. If you're looking for the bikes, they are off this week. The points race will wait 7 more days. We take the last lap with DW after a break. He's won a ton of races, but Martinsville has provided a birthday present for Darrell. Plus, Mark Martin looking for a Martinsville sweep. More of the field for the Auto Care 500 coming up. Craven, the last 2 drivers to make it in on speed. Darrell Waltrip has won 84 times on the Winston Cup circuit. He has 3 championships on his resume, but the thing that he's most proud of is fatherhood. DW wasn't a young man when he became Daddy DW, but each time he welcomes a new Waltrip into the world, he does so in style with a victory on the track. The streak began in Martinsville. We take a look in this week's last lap.
1987, Darrell Waltrip, 3-time Winston Cup champion, had left Junior Johnson and joined up with Rick Hendrick. It was a rough, winless year for the Tide team heading into the Goodies 500 at Martinsville. It It was also the year of a sweet surprise. His first child, Jessica, was born, a child he thought would never arrive.
Stevie was pregnant, and she had miscarried about 3 or 4 times at that point, and it looks like we're going to make it to term. And I'm trying to race, and this team's not going the way I wanted to, and it was a pretty rough year. And we got down there to September and got to Martinsville, and I come out to the racetrack on Sunday morning, and they had brought a rose. It was in the seat and had a little note that said, win one for me, Daddy.
And on race day, with Dale Earnhardt and Terry Labonte trading paint in front of him, Darrell saw his chance to grant his daughter's wish.
When we get down to the 3rd turn, Terry is going to dive in, and he's going to take Dale out, or he's going to at least lay on him. When he started to dive in, I'm here, and I clicked him. I didn't bump him, I clicked him. And when I did, it wobbled him. And when it did, well, he couldn't get on the brake, and he hit Earnhardt. And guess where I was? Looking at the checkered flag.
In 1992, his second child, Sarah, was born. A few days later, Daddy D.W. went to Bristol and welcomed her to the world with a win.
Drove my heart out, baby doll. Drove my heart out. For you. Now wait, I'm close. For you.
Meanwhile, at ASA qualifying in Winchester, Indiana, Larry Foyt takes his first career pole. Yeah, it's AJ's kid. The son of the 4-time Indianapolis 500 champion turned a lap of 114.972 miles an hour, breaking a 20-year-old ASA track record held by some guy named Mark Martin. Larry said he had a good car all day, but he saved a little something extra for qualifying. For more racing news, log on to ESPN.com. Click on over to the racing pages. Every series, every race, driver info and analysis from ESPN's experts. Anytime you need it at ESPN.com. The Napa Auto Care 500. These are all provisionals, and there are stiff odds against these men. The deepest that any winner has ever started on this track was 24th. Paul Kinney, our researcher, knew it was 1959. Lee Petty is the correct answer. Elliott Sadler making the 1,000th start for Wood Brothers Racing, doing so in his native Virginia, but doing so from the last spot in the field. Wood Brothers hasn't won a race since 1993. 5 drivers failed to qualify, including Scott Pruitt and Dave Marcus. NASCAR today following us on ESPN2. The crew standing by with news from Martinsville. They get you set for the Napa Auto Care 500. NASCAR today on deck on ESPN2. We'll come back and reload at 9 o'clock Eastern time tonight. The complete wrap-up on Martinsville, plus Kart's Grand Prix of Houston and more. Outlaws, NHRA, everything's going this weekend. RPM at 9 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. Come back and join us for that full hour of speed later tonight. The Napa Auto Care 500 on ESPN at 1 p.m. Eastern time. ABC has the kart race at 4. We'll see you later.
RPM Today is a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com.